everybody. Come on into my kitchen. I'd love to have you. Okay, this is kind of a celebration day. So we have balloons and we're pretty happy and we're pretty thankful. So being appreciated is music to the soul. And I want to send some music to your soul because you sure have to mine. I reached over 1,000 subscribers, never believing for a minute that would happen. So I want to share with you some of my recipes. I am gluten-free, but the first recipe is gluten-free, but it is so delicious no one would know. Plus it's very healthy. So here we go. Now, we are going to make apricot brandy soaked fruitcake. So you can use it for the whole Christmas season, and it can set aside, if you make it soon, for a month. That's plenty enough, and you'll be set to go. So, the first thing I did was set the oven for 275. It bakes in the oven for 4 hours. So it's a low oven for a long period of time. So, and then the next thing I did was, it takes, and you might want to write the amounts down, but I will show up a close-up of the recipe after, hoping it shows up. So, you want to take 225 grams of butter. That's about half of your pound when you buy it. But remember, this is a whole cake, and this is a good fat. So, we're going to use about 1/2 pound of butter and 1 tablespoon of molasses. Now we want to warm this slightly. I put it on my lowest burner, and this is a fireproof dish, just enough to heat it. And I did that first because you want to cool it a bit, and because it's going to be put into some beaten eggs shortly. But first, while it's cooling a bit, we'll get the dry ingredients ready. Have you got a pen or pencil? So I really want to share this with you. It is delicious, and then it's a kind of the gift that could go on giving. So let's put the dry ingredients in a bowl. Okay, we want 100 grams of almond flour. Now, I have pre-measured it, and 100 grams is about 1 cup. So you can write down 1 cup. It's just a little less than 1 cup, but I don't think that little tiny bit would hurt. So, okay, we're going to put in 100 grams of almond flour, which of course is ground almonds, into your dry bowl. There we go. And we are going to put in 100 grams of organic light buckwheat. Now, we don't have to use organic. Buckwheat is fine if it's guaranteed gluten-free for the gluten-free people, or it's just a very healthy grain, and it makes very good like thickening in a cake, but still moist. That's why it's used in pancakes a lot. So we're going to put 100 grams of buckwheat. Now, this is 3/4 of a cup because it's a heavier grain, settles different in your mix. So we went out to the bulk food store yesterday after morning and purchased this. You can even weigh out exactly what you want if you want to try the recipe first. So into the bowl with the almond flour goes the 100 grams of buckwheat flour. Okay, and the next one is 25 grams of tapioca flour. Now, I never usually use tapioca flour, but this is a special occasion, and it is very little for a whole cake. 25 grams is about 1/4 of a cup. It's a little less, but not much. It's about 1/4 of a cup. So into the dry ingredients bowl. Okay, we're doing good. Now we'll just stir that up a little bit. Sometimes the almonds form little lumps and you kind of just want to use one of these things and just smush them up a bit. And try to get rid of all the little bumps. Okay, and that was the tapioca. Now we want a half a teaspoon of salt. Make sure I get the right one. Okay, and here's my salt. There isn't really much to this recipe. It is quick and easy. So half a teaspoon of salt. I was surprised. This is my fourth one. Would I make 4 if it wasn't good? It is good. So there. Now we want a quarter of a teaspoon of nutmeg and a half a teaspoon of allspice. This is allspice. So I want a half a teaspoon of allspice. Just this one. And I did heaping when I did it because it didn't even taste over spiced, so I did heaping. If you like it real spicy, add a little extra. It wasn't noticeably spicy. Okay, and ask me where my quarter of a teaspoon went, so I'll just use half of this. Is about a quarter of a teaspoon of nutmeg. So in that goes. That's it for the spices. Now, you use palm coconut sugar, 175 grams. So this is, other than the fruit, the only sweetener. So 175 grams is about 1 1/3 cups. So that makes it a little bit easier for it. In that goes. Okay, that's it for the dry ingredients. So we're gonna, the coconut sugar is, it's a mild sweetener. It has a nice flavor. Like we cook with coconut oil a lot because it can take more heat than olive oil if you have a hot pan and you're frying up something. So we do use it. When you make pancakes, and I got a quick and easy pancake recipe I'll share later. I won't be making it, but I'll give you the recipe. And I always, when I make them, start out with a little bit of coconut oil in the pan. It adds to the flavor. So I'm just getting the little bumps out, and there's our dry ingredients in the bowl. So the fun is going to start. Now, I have 4 eggs mixed in this bowl, and I have pre-beaten them to save you the noise of listening to it, but we will have to put this on. Now, these have slightly cooled, and the reason you don't want to pour, this is your butter with your tablespoon of molasses, and the reason you don't want to have this too hot when you're putting it in your eggs is you don't want to cook the eggs. So with the beater going high and slowly putting in this, it's probably like a baby's bath. So I'm just going to put this on and add it. I haven't curdled one yet, so if you start out doing this first, you won't curdle your eggs. I don't think it would hurt the recipe too badly, but I don't like to do it. So it's just a simple thing of doing it first and letting it sit until, you know, it was just felt warm, but it wasn't hot. So there we go. Okay, now comes the fun part. Okay, it's add butter, egg mixture to molasses mixture to dry ingredients and beating till smooth. So now we are going to add this to our dry ingredients, and we're going to beat it in. Whoops, there went my plug in. I was was trying to get it so we could reach. Hold on one sec. I unplugged myself, which I didn't want to do. Okay, there we go. Okay. Now, slowly we're going to beat the wet ingredients, which is 4 eggs, the half a pound of butter, and 1 tablespoon of molasses. Slowly, we're going to put that into the dry ingredients. And we're going to beat it and make sure that it's nice and smooth. We're almost finished. I mean, it's a wonderful recipe. Okay, I'm just going to scrape what's left in this bowl in. I hate to waste anything. There. Jack's very good about that. I think he's so good at fixing everything and doing everything because he's so meticulous. And you know what? It's Thanksgiving down in the States and we had ours already. But you know, I think the people that are so close to you, you often forget to just verbally say how much you appreciate them. Just ignore the awful things for a while and just say, oh, I appreciate you doing that. That was really nice. And you know, it goes a long way. I can remember at work, if they said you did such a good job, oh, you wanted to go and do a better job. And I think that works. And everybody loves to feel appreciated. And it does do something for your soul. So don't forget, you know, those closest to you, your mom, like Mom, she'll be 94 December 6th. I mean, don't forget to give them a hug and say, I love you, Mom. Or, you know, your husband. Anyway, that's just a side. I'll cry. Okay, let's stir this in. One last time. Okay, now, you also take the zest of 1 orange and 1 lemon. And that is in here. And it's going in. And it is, don't forget this. If you're really stuck and you don't want to do that, I mean, you could always use some lemon oil or orange oil, but you do want that nice flavor. Okay, we're going to let that sit for a minute. And in here is the secret. Now, when we came home yesterday from the bulk food store, we put all the fruit into this, the fruit that is used. And you can change the fruit. I've done, this is my 4th recipe. I've done it 3 different ways. Not changing the dry ingredients, although I think you could probably use something else instead of the buckwheat. You could probably use sorghum flour or something if you're gluten-free, or just wheat flour if you're not. So I don't think it would hurt it. So anyway, we came home, and you can use which fruit you prefer best. But I'm going to give you the recipe for this one, this is the 2nd time I've done this one. So I came home and I put in 200 grams. Now this was weighed and I don't have the cup measurements, but I have a scale. So 200 grams of currants. Okay. And 300 grams of diced apricots. They look about this size. And at the bulk food store, they said they use a little bit of rice flour to keep them from sticking to each other. That's what they use. So diced apricots and 175 grams of sultans, raisins of course, and 175 grams of Thompson raisins. And the next one is 50 grams of cranberries. Now I did one where I used more cranberries, but I always made sure that I had the same amount of weight of fruit. if I change something. I think it's totals, I think it's totals 900 grams altogether, but you'd have to add up that. So that was 200 grams of currants, 300 grams of diced apricots, 100 grams of sultans, 175 grams of Thompson raisins, and 50 grams of cranberries. Now, after you've got that in, and you do that the day before. So we did this yesterday when we got home. It was just before lunch, I think we got home. And now it's 10:30, so that's pretty good. But don't forget, you got your fruit in your bowl. Now you want to add, I better make sure I get this right. This is very important. I know it was 200 looking where I wrote it down. Oh, here we are. It's at the very top. Oof. 200 milliliters of apricot brandy. Now, because of the apricots in the recipe, this is good. I'm not a heavy drinker. I enjoy wine with dinner occasionally, but I'm not a heavy drinker. And on a hot day, I like a beer. But anyway, if you don't want to use alcohol, you could use flavoring of some kind. But anyway, here we go. You use 200 milliliters of apricot brandy, and you dump it into the fruit. And you stir it up really well. You put a plate over it, which we had all night. And every once in a while when you come in the kitchen, you give it a little stir. Get everybody in on it. Get them to help stir it around. Now this fruit has soaked up all of the brandy. So the whole works is going to be folded in to our batter. So there we go. I'll lick that later. Oh, it was good. So now I'm going to just scoot this all out of here. There. See? Oh boy. Now. Okay. And better scrape this out. We don't want to leave any of that. Now there's no real liquid showing itself in there. It was all plumped up, the fruit. The fruit is no longer dry and hard. If it was, you know, it's plumped it all up, made it nice. Now I am just going to fold this in. I just got a little fork, but you can use whatever you want. It's a really thick fruity batter, but it's fruit cake. So it's awesome. So you want to make sure that that liquid is really worked in around the fruit. Because the next step is our pan. So I'm going to take that out of there. I'll lick that off later. Okay, now the pan. Now the first time I did it, I used this Angel Food Cake pan. It's one of those Angel Food Cake pans where the center lifts up. So it's so easy to get your cake out and cool. So, and then what you want to do is line it with parchment paper. Cut yourself a donut shape for the bottom and a strip for the side. Now I've got these little clips I use in the kitchen sometimes, just so that when I'm putting the batter in, it's not falling down. So we're all ready to put the batter in. I think I'll get a big spoon. I even let Maggie come visit, didn't I, Maggie? She's a good girl. Yeah, she's a good girl. She decided she was going to be here today, seeing it was sort of a celebrating day. So first, I think what I'm going to do is spoon this in. Whoops. Because it is thick. And I'm going to go all around the donut shape. It's very heavy too, so that'll sort of get a start on it. And that way I'm making sure that the paper, the parchment paper, is staying right to the edge as I put this in. I'll just turn that way a bit. Now, I hope there's some of you that are going to try this. It's a nice surprise. Just go down to the bulk food store and weigh out the amounts you need. And you'll find it's not that expensive. You try and buy a fruit cake. Oh my goodness. Chap likes fruit cake so much. He ordered online one year and he thought he was going to get this like big fruit cake for whatever amount he paid. I don't know, but it was a tiny little thing. You wouldn't have believed it. Oh, so anyway. Yeah. It's always nice to do it at home. Make something homemade. Okay, now I'm just going to use my rubber thing. I love this little one. I use it for all the time. Other ones hardly get used. This small one is so good. Okay, now into the rest. You want to put it all in there. I know there's not that many people that are gluten-free, and I think it gets a bad rap because mostly if you buy gluten-free products from the store, it's not the healthy flours. Not that it should be. They're out to make money. So they're not going to use something that's a little bit more expensive if they can make more money going with something that they can at least call gluten-free. So that's how it gets. Now you want to smooth this in. It's all ready to go. I've got to make sure I don't put the plastic in the oven. These get washed there, very handy, even if you're putting bread in the bread pan. So there we are. Now it's going in the oven. And it's going in the center of the oven, and it'll be there for 4 hours. And when it comes out, thought I had a clock. When it comes out, it'll be springy to the touch, and you know it's done. So mine is, it's 10:30 a.m. here now, so 11:30, 12:30, 1:30. Mine will be out at 2:30, and I better write that down because sometimes I get busy doing other things, and I don't want to forget. So 10:30, be out at 2:30. I'll let it cool for a while, and then I have to show you how it looks when it's done. This is number 1. I even labeled it 1. And we went to the thrift store. We washed them out good. We got 4 tins now to put them in because our garage, and the canning room is just this little room in there, and Jack added an extra shelf in the top for the fruit cakes. I said, it would be nice to have a shelf there. If you even say anything about something you might like, the next thing you know, he's done it. He's amazing. So anyway, I go in there to put something away, and here's this shelf. So, and because it is the garage, mice could get in there. You don't want anything eating it. So it's in the tin, and then after it was cooled, oh, there's a raisin. Oh, is that good? I'm telling you. Okay, so it's in the tin, and rather than wait 4 hours and show it again, I thought, well, I'll just this is the only one that we tested before, so there might be just a little hole. So it's wrapped in wax paper, which we didn't have to do. Before we used the tin, we thought that would be good, and then we thought maybe it won't. So you don't have to use the waxed brown paper. This is regular wax paper. And here, this is cheesecloth. that was soaked in the apricot brandy. So, some people use rum, so it's just your preferences. But I like, because there's apricots in this, I like to know that it makes it so nice. So anyway, I'm undoing the cheesecloth. This is not near as wet as it was when we put it around it. So, this is what your fruitcake will look like. There it is. Now I'm going to come over and show you a close-up. It is delicious. Okay, here's the close-up. And it's hard to show inside. It is delicious. It is an awesome fruitcake. So, that's it for the fruitcake. And before I give you the other recipe, I'll come and hold that recipe right up in case you didn't write everything down. If I could have sent you an email, something like that, and I'm not very good at these things, you know, so how to send 1,000 people. So, there's, let me see. Okay. There's the recipe, first part. And now the dry ingredients. And, whoop. And instructions. Whoops, I were crooked there. Now, I know this is silly, isn't it? And don't forget, there was the molasses, the 4 eggs, and the butter that was warm. So, there we go. So, well, we hope you try it. Now, the gluten-free pancakes. Get your pen ready. These are delicious. Sometimes we have a kind of a cheap dinner. Mom loves pancakes, and we have pancakes and sausages. And maple syrup from Canada. It is so good for you. I guess other places make maple syrup, but it's good. So, gluten-free crepe pancakes. Half a teaspoon of salt. 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar. Now, these are my stable flours I always use for my baking. A half a cup of millet flour. A 1/4 cup of almond flour. A 1/4 cup of ground hemp seeds. A 1/4 cup of sorghum flour. 2 teaspoons of baking powder. You mix all your dry ingredients together. There is 3 eggs involved, so you separate your eggs, put the whites aside. You have 3 egg yolks, 1 cup of milk, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. You mix that all up. You add your dry ingredients, mix it all up again, and then you beat the egg whites and fold them in, and you're all ready to go in a hot pan. They are delicious. They're crepes. You can use them for other things. They're very nice. Okay, last but not least, easy wheat-free buns. I found this in a ladies' magazine. Just a little tiny note about a wheat-free bun. I've tried it as a hamburger. It stands up as a hamburger bun. And you want 3 tablespoons of almond flour, 1 beaten egg, a half a teaspoon of baking powder, and 1½ tablespoons of coconut oil. You just mix all that up, and this recipe makes maybe 3 buns, 2 for sure, 3 if you want them not as thick. And I have those little They're little rings you can use for cooking maybe a hamburger and an egg or anything, but when I make buns, I use those little rings. A little bit of the liquid comes out, but it doesn't keep coming out. Pour it into the ring and bake it in the oven for 350 for about, I do it in my toaster oven if I'm in a hurry, 350 for about 20 minutes and it's done. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this. What do you think, Maggie? You gonna say goodbye? Goodbye, and thank you for joining us. And we'll be back to Orchids in Pots on the next video. Bye.